This is Barry Zalma on Insurance. I am an attorney who has retired from the practice of law and now spend my time as an insurance claims consultant and expert witness, author, and producer of these videos. Today I'd like to talk about the trigger of coverage with regard to claims of property damage. The term trigger of coverage means what event must occur for potential coverage to commence under the terms of an insurance policy, and what must take place within the policy's effective dates for the potential of coverage to be triggered, come into effect, be able to be the purpose of a claim. After the California Supreme Court adopted a continuous trigger in a case called Montrose Chemical Corp versus Admiral in 1995, where there was a case of successive policies, property damage that is continuous or progressively deteriorating throughout several policy periods is potentially covered by all policies in effect during those periods, so that the insurer's duty to defend arose under those continuous policies. Insurers trying to limit their coverage revised the policy wording after the Montrose Chemical Corp decision. Therefore, the precise question is what result follows under the language of the policies of insurance to which the parties agreed. The continuous injury trigger has been applied mostly in cases involving gradual release of pollutants and other environmental harms. After Montrose, the insurers revised their policies to use the language for the very purpose of obviating the application of the progressive damage continuous trigger articulated in Montrose. As a result, the defendant's policies state that property damage which commenced prior to the effective date of the insurance will be deemed to have happened in its entirety prior to and not during the term of the insurance. In King County versus Travelers, a 2019 decision, the Court of Appeals ruled that the allegations by a property owner that an environmental consultant failed to detect the presence of pollutants on its property did not trigger coverage under the consultant's liability policies. The court found that the occurrence giving rise to the claims against the insured took place years before the issuance of the policies. Reaching a decision that comports with the majority of states, the court stated, quote, "In order for there to be coverage under these policies, the property damage must have occurred during the policy period. The property damage was the contamination of physical injury to the property which was caused by previous owners and users of the site. GTL's liability was hinged upon its failure to detect the contamination. Even if the property is not considered physically injured, property damage as defined by the policy included, quote, loss of use of tangible property that is not physically injured, close quote. However, that loss of use is deemed to occur at the time of the occurrence that caused it. That occurrence predated the policy by almost 7 years. Accordingly, the property damage did not occur during the policy period, and coverage is unambiguously excluded, close quote. Whenever a claim is made for damage to property, it is essential that both the insurer and the party making the claim determine the date and time when the property was actually physically damaged. Claims should then be made only to the insurer on the risk, the one whose policy is in force at the time the physical damage occurred, not the one whose policy is in force at the time a suit is filed. While the term trigger of coverage is not a term used in an insurance policy, it is, as the California Supreme Court said, a convenience used to describe that which, under the specific terms of an insurance policy, must happen in the policy period in order for the potential of coverage to arise. The issue is largely one of timing. What must take place within the policy's effective dates for the potential of coverage to be triggered? Because occurrence policies, as distinguished from claims-made policies, cover occurrences that result in injury during the policy period, the courts in California and elsewhere have concluded that the policies are invoked or triggered when the injury takes place. The word trigger, as a term of art, means the event that activates coverage under one or more insurance policies. The trigger of coverage problem arises in determining exactly what must take place within the policy's effective dates to trigger coverage. Different states apply different triggers of coverage theories, including the manifestation trigger, the exposure trigger, the continuous trigger, and the trigger injury in fact trigger, recognizing the existence of various trigger of coverage theories. No Texas state appellate court has discussed which trigger of coverage theory should apply to a first-party claim under a standard homeowner's insurance policy based on continuing or progressively deteriorating damage to the insured's dwelling. When the Travelers issued a policy that provides coverage for injury or damage that happens while this agreement is in effect, it limited its coverage to that temporal requirement that applies only to the injury that occurs while the policy is in effect. Travelers bargained for an injury-based trigger of coverage, not an act-based trigger. Under the policy's plain terms, Travelers must defend any claim in which covered injuries occurred in their policy term between 2005 and 2011, regardless of when the wrongful causal act occurred. This is a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal decision from 2019 called Travelers Indemnity Company versus Mitchell. This video was adapted from my book Zelma on Insurance Claims Part 102, Second Edition, available as a Kindle book or a paperback from Amazon.com and from my website Zelma.com by clicking on the link to the Insurance Claims Library. If you found this video to be interesting or useful to you in your profession, please refer it to your colleagues. It is free. And if you wish to learn about future blog posts and future videos, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, my Rumble channel, and to my blog so that you can be informed of future videos. Thank you again for your attention.